This is the Media Police Post from the Fort Hall School of Government. In this show, we police the state of truth in the Republic. And because truth is communicated to us by journalists and analysts, we have made it our civic duty to put it to the test. We advance from two confirmed truths about the media. One, and in the words of Roger Stone, the media is either lazy or evil. And for the most part, it is both evil and lazy. That is why the truth, their truth, must be put to a test. Two, another confirmed truth is that journalism is verified gossip. In fact, what is presented to us as news analysis is gossip that has been verified by journalists. This gossip has to be ground truthed. We will monitor columnists and the media. We will assess the state of truth in what they submit to the Republic, and we will pass verdict on what is true and what is not. For the record, we are not journalists. We are thinkers. We are not lazy or evil, and we do not verify gossip. What we give you is the truth that sets you free. Welcome, GK and CS. What are we looking at today?
Asante, I'd like to kick off with an article which appeared in The Nation today, titled Ministers Back Matiang'i as State House Calls Get Louder. The article highlights that a handsome number of top government officials and elected leaders endorse the prospect of a presidential bid by Dr. Matiang'i. As I read the article, I recalled a line from one of Shakespeare's plays, The Twelfth Night, that some are born great, some achieve greatness, and some have greatness thrust upon them. Professor Mutahi Ngonyi has said before that successes in politics are not born. Successes, especially in African politics, are created. And so, in keeping with the thinking of the good professor, a successor will not emerge. A successor will be created. In light of this, I therefore pose the question, could it be that Dr. Matiang'i is being positioned to have greatness thrust upon him? With a measure of conviction, I would like to present the argument that as more contenders for the presidency emerge, the strongest of these is Dr. Fred Okengo Matiang'i. In light of President Uhuru's incredible balancing act of holding the country together while also getting things done and doing significantly more than all previous governments combined, the mantle needs to be passed to someone who will sustain the momentum while also keeping us safe and united. Consider this, therefore. It stands to his credit that CS Matiang'i has helped President Uhuru oversee the security and stability of the country as a CS Interior. And yet once upon a time we wondered with dismay whether anyone could ever step into the shoes of the late Honorable Nkaissery. Furthermore, through Executive Order No. 1 of 2019, Dr. Matiang'i was also entrusted with the role of overseeing all government projects and programs as a chair of the Cabinet Committee on National Development, Implementation and Communication. He chairs a cabinet committee whose membership includes all cabinet secretaries, the Attorney General, and the head of public service. It is not far-fetched that he is often referred to as the chief minister, first amongst equals. This is a man who has also been trusted with sensitive foreign relation assignments. In early 2020, President Uhuru sent CS Matiang'i to meet President Farmajo of Somalia and shortly thereafter to Ethiopia to meet Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed in order to help advance negotiations on the Kenya-Somalia border. The president also sent Dr. Matiang'i on a special trip to meet the president of UAE, Sheikh Khalifa, to discuss closer collaboration between UAE and Kenya in the security sector. In all dockets he has been entrusted with, he always leaves things better than he found them. He oversaw major reforms in the education sector, significantly improving the conduct of national exams. In ICT, he steered the smooth transition of the analog to digital migration, which revolutionized the broadcasting space. In the Lands Ministry, he helped dismantle cartels. In Interior, he has overseen key reforms in the security sector, including harmonization of the National Police Service command structure. So you have here a reformer, an administrator, and also a diplomat, a cocktail of stellar qualities that you want in a president or prime minister. The man has a Midas touch. Everything he touches turns to gold. If merit is a measure, Dr. Matiang'i is your main contender. Allow me to leave you with a passage from scripture. In the Gospel of Matthew, we learn about the good and faithful servant, who being faithful over a few things is made ruler over many things. So, to the owners of the presidency, I humbly invite you to consider the illustrious curriculum vitae of Dr. Fred Matiang'i. That is, of course, assuming that he isn't already your anointed. Again, I say, if merit is a measure, Dr. Matiang'i is your main contender.
Wow.
I have to say, I've never seen a more glowing review. If I hadn't known Dr. Matiang'i myself, I would be pandering for him at this moment.
I know, fantastic. So, to political outsiders, today I would like to address two things, and just to echo onto what CS has said. The succession crisis in the Gikuyu nation, and explain why the Gama candidate doesn't have to come from the mountain, and two, how Raila will exploit the current crisis to make sure BBI passes. To my first submission, that looks at Gama, they're not supporting, it looks like they're not supporting Ruto in 2022. And there's hype politics surrounding this succession election. And they're in high gear about who will succeed Uhuru Kenyatta. But in order to answer this, we must look at what Sia said, how successes have emerged in the past. And so we see that successes in politics are not born, they are created. We find Jomo Kenyatta created Arab Moi with intentionality. Moi did it for Uhuru with intentionality. There have been many debates about whether a political outsider could indeed succeed Uhuru Kenyatta. And so yes, you've made a good glowing case for Matiang'i. And I would posit that yes, it's likely it could happen. Uhuru will create his own successor, and this successor will be created way before the ballot of 2022. So while tribal alliances and ethnic blocs are how we have traditionally thought about politics, if we move beyond the surface, we find that the Agikuyu do not have to have a Kikuyu candidate to succeed Uhuru Kenyatta. Bear with me. For instance, in 2002, Mwai Kibaki was not actually the Agikuyu candidate, he was the Luo candidate. And for those pointing to the death of the handshake between Raila and Uhuru, they should remember that there has always been a relationship of mutual assistance between the Agikuyu and the Luo. We even go back to Kenya's independence, where Jaramogi Odinga said there'll be no independence without Kenyatta. And then in 2002, we see this dynamic with Raila and Kibaki Tosha. The reason I bring this up is to propose that it is not so out of the box to think that a Luo or another tribe like the Luya can actually become the Gama candidate in 2022. And as the debate over succession and coalitions in the run-up to the next election intensifies, we must remember that Uhuru Kenyatta is the least studied and therefore least understood politician. And I expect he will pick a political outsider as a successor. On my second submission, Raila will exploit the current political situation. And this is because, unlike Uhuru, he is both well-studied and pretty predictable. One of the methods Raila uses is a term borrowed from Naomi Klein's book, The Shock Doctrine, where you scare people to death and then demand that your agenda be enacted without delay. This week, he told us that the deep state elements were trying to sabotage BBI, and he created the political shock. He will be the same one who will administer the healing. He creates a crisis and then he benefits politically from it. And in the words of Winston Churchill, he never wastes a disaster. Raila in a crisis is like a fish in water.
I do agree with you. He'll create the crisis and
fix it.
Fix it, give us a solution.
Yeah.
Today I'd like to address some speculation that is being pandered by The Star. According to some envelope journalists at The Star, President Uhuru Kenyatta is backing Amani Congress leader Musalia Mudavadi for president in 2022. The question I ask is, and so what if he is? John Maynard Keynes once said, when events change, change your mind. Yeah. When the facts change, change your mind. When information changes, alter your conclusions. There is no law that bars Uhuru from changing his mind on who he will support in 2022. In fact, a prudent prince cannot and must not honor his word, especially when it places him at a disadvantage, and when the reasons for which he made the promise no longer exist. That said, I think that there is a lesson here for Musalia Mudavadi. As Professor Mutahi Ngunyi says, political experience has taught us that we learn absolutely nothing from experience. This is not the first time that the presidency has been promised to Musalia Mudavadi. In 2013, he would have been the Jubilee candidate, but he was not. In 2017, he formed NASA and wanted to be its political candidate, but he was not. Is he doomed to repeat this fate in 2022? Now we must give Mudavadi a story. And I think Mudavadi is like Sisyphus in the Greek mythology. Sisyphus annoyed the gods and was punished to roll a heavy stone up the hill all day. And just before it settled at the peak, the heavy stone would snap and roll back down. Sisyphus had to roll the stone up again, but once at the top, it would snap and roll down again. And he did this all his life. So just like Sisyphus, Mudavadi is condemned to roll a stone called the promise of the presidency up the succession hill without success all his life. There's another heathen proverb that says that the gods make mad those whom they seek to destroy. And if the election tree has given you the opposition today, it's given you the opposition tomorrow, and the day after, why should you expect it to give you the presidency on the fourth try? Bwana Mudavadi, do not succumb to this madness.
Wow. Fantastic.
Thank you for joining us on the Media Police Post. Join us next week. Columnists, we have put you on notice.